Yo, you're not hearing?
Thing is last time where we can hear you, but I wasn't hearing the commercials either.
All right. All right, I'm gonna figure it out. Give me a minute here.
All right, you can mute yourself, by the way, too.
All right. I don't remember how to call it. I got no fucking clue. All right, I can still be picked up.
I can stop. Sean, you can't hear me, right? No, I can't hear him. Wait.
He's
I
muted.
can hear you. You can hear me right now?
I can hear you guys now.
Yeah, I can hear you both.
Okay. What is it coming through? I'm in the Q102 studio, which is a part of this problem.
It's no big deal, by the way. Don't stress yourself out. I'm trying to think. Should we just test and go live, and I'll throw it to you guys and go listen real fast and see if you can hear all of us? And we'll and whatever. Yeah, I think that's what we should try. I guess.
Okay.
If it doesn't work, it's no different than what's happening right now. So, yeah, we'll just come back to the commercial.
All right, I'm getting ready to come back. I'm going to throw you a hard hand signal so you can kind of have a cue here. but just in case because you probably won't hear the song.
Yeah.
I'll check.
If you just can't hear the music, and that's the only problem, then it's whatever.
I think that's currently the case. I'm not
Okay.
sure exactly why, but that seems to be the setup.
The only reason I thought that wasn't the case is because last time this happened, I thought I think people are hearing this on the stream, by the way, but oh well. I think last time this happened, when we went live, people couldn't hear it, but I guess I could actually just check right now. Let me mute myself as we come back.
Yeah, I can hear you on stream.
People can hear us on the stream. Okay, that's fine. All right.
All right.
Yeah, let's just restart.
All right. Give me 15 seconds.
All good. Hello and welcome to the Tough Cover Radio Show. It is Saturday, June 21st, and there's a lot to talk about on the sports carousel. So we got a perfect guest here to talk all things basketball with Game 7. I don't know how many people know that reference, but Zaza Pachulia, shout out. We've played it on this show before. But
played it coming in for the intro, so disappointed that things did not go smooth on the.
Had it queued up.
Yeah, I had it rolling, darn it.
Oh, that's a great thought. I at like 10:50, I was like, oh, I should have sent that to Sean. But Game 7, nothing like it. Two of the best words in sports, and two of the other best words in sports. NBA draft. A lot of stuff to talk about here with our guy Sam Oshtry. Later on in the show, we'll get to the Phillies' biggest weekend of the year for our Phillies, biggest win of the season, I'd say, last night with a Rookie of the Year movie moment at the plate. We'll get into all things relating to that. We have NFL quarterback rankings to break down. We got Sean Barnard back in the studio on the ones and twos. And our guest for today is none other than Sam Oshtry. You can follow him on Twitter at @SOshtry. Go check out his stuff over at The Score. Sam, how we doing? Game 7 eve here.
I'm great. It's always great to be back with you guys on a Saturday morning into afternoon. There's nothing better than a Game 7. There's just nothing better in any sport, but especially basketball. Just the perfect cherry on top on one of the all-time great NBA seasons. Since I've been following the sport as a kid, this has been one of my favorite seasons ever. So to put the cherry on top with a Game 7 and the fifth Game 7 in the last 35 years. So don't take this for granted. Like, these are really rare in the NBA. When you have the opportunity to have one, I don't expect it to be a blowout. This is going to be a competitive game. So savor the moment at 8 o'clock tomorrow night.
In the finals, right? Fifth Game 7 in the finals.
In the NBA finals, yeah.
That makes more. Yeah, I was going to say, I was like, whoa.
No. There's been a few others over the years.
It's been nine years.
2016, yep.
And here we are on a Game 7 that a lot of us, not me included, did not think we were going to see. And I'll throw it to Sean. I forget where you were at the beginning of the series. I know you were, I think, closer to me than the people who thought it was going to be a sweep. Are you surprised, especially after the way that the Pacers choked Game 4? We talked about it on this show right after. But I will say, Sean pushed back on me after Game 4 when I said I thought the Pacers just lost the series. Sean was there to say, I don't know if that's fair. How are you? Are you surprised after that? Are you surprised after the Halliburton injury news? And here we are with a Game 7 to watch.
Yeah, I went into the series with the expectation of Thunder in 6, that I gave a little bit of respect to the Pacers. And the more that I've watched, the more that I believed in this team. And really, their unwillingness to roll over has been such a defining trait for this Pacers team, really this entire playoff run. Some of the most improbable wins that we've seen in NBA history that they seem to just consistently pull off. I'm not counting them out for tomorrow either for that specific reason, but certainly encouraged and surprised to see the level of fight this team has. That was a dominant victory in Game 6 and one that I think made quite a statement for who this team is as an NBA team there. So shout out to the Indiana Pacers for making things interesting and cannot wait for Sunday night.
And then, Sam, I know that you have been a Pacers hater for a long time here.
Big time.
Are you coming around on the Pacers? Are you Are you as shocked as everybody in the public and in the media certainly is that this is a 7-game series? Or I guess especially, I should say, especially after Game 4, what happened there, and then what happened in Game 5. How shocked are you at what happened in Game 6?
I think you guys only wanted me on to rub in.
No,
the
it was actually more
glory.
NBA draft related. It was more draft related.
Yes, obviously you guys have been on the Pacers train this entire playoffs, and I have not. I have not at all, and they've shocked me. They've stunned me. Every bit of it. I've been so impressed with them. So yeah, I've completely come around this team, and they deserve all the praise. They're like Sean said, this team is just relentless on both ends, and it's really not just like how they never give up, but it's their play style, like how they pick up full court, how they can adjust. Where last game they stopped picking up full court, but their pickup point in the half court was high enough that the ball pressure really bothered the Thunder, and they were able to generate a ton of turnovers. And the Thunder had 21 turnovers, and that's usually a rare thing. The Thunder are not a team that turn the ball over a lot. So I've just been shocked and surprised and I guess pleased in a sense of how great this Pacers team is, because it defies everything you know about basketball logic and team building over the last couple of decades, where you do need a top 5 to 6 player. All of what NBA history has told us, the champions, those guys have a top 5 to 8 player maximum in the NBA. And if this Pacers team wins, this will be Tyrese Halliburton, and it's not discrediting him at all, but he will be the worst best player on a championship team in over 2 decades, probably since that Pistons team.
Yeah. And
that is just astonishing that we're at that place right now. But that's the parity-driven NBA that we have right now. So I've completely turned around this Pacers team, the way they play as a group, their depth, everything. I've been so impressed with this team. So I think they have a real chance to win tomorrow.
So here's a question for both of you, and I haven't not a question I had formed in my head, so bear with me here. But is this a blip on the radar in terms of like the needing a deeper team, and maybe you don't need a top 5 player anymore? Is this how it's going to be going forward due to the CBA, or something I kind of just thought of while we were sitting here? I think Michael Jordan and Michael Jordan and LeBron James have been in so many finals over the last since 1990, I guess. So that's 35 years where maybe we can, Sean, if you want to check that out, how many finals Michael Jordan and LeBron have been in since Jordan's first finals, which I believe is 1990. I think it's probably more than half. I think it's probably actually a good bit more than half. No, it's probably about half. Bad radio here. But it's probably about half that Jordan and LeBron have been in finals. Are we in an era of the NBA where there isn't a Jordan or LeBron? So with that, it's going to be more teams that if you get 8-9 guys that play as a really good rotation and have an identity and a great coach, and even if Halliburton's not a top 5 guy, he's a top 12, top 12-ish guy. So is this a 1-year thing? Is this a CBA thing? Or is this a lack of a true top dog like a LeBron or a Jordan?
Yeah, and just for clarity here, 16 NBA Finals appearances between Michael Jordan and LeBron, and he made his debut in the 1984-85 season. So I was still doing the math on what exactly that breakdown is.
I think Jordan's first finals was 90. So that means of the last 35 years, they've made 16. So almost half. Almost
pretty
half
crazy.
The finals. And Jordan won 6, LeBron won 4. So they've won 10 of the last 35 titles. Then you have the Kobe Shaq Lakers who won 3. You start to dwindle it down, and the Golden State Warriors who had a top 2 player in the world and then had 2 top 3 players in the world. So it is most of the time it's because there's a true top dog, or a top dog is with another top dog, or whatever happens to be the case. Do you think this is I'll throw it to Sam. Do you think this is a 1-year thing with Indiana, a 1-year thing? I think OKC's not as fair for this conversation considering they have the MVP, but is this we've seen it a little bit with Miami, although Jimmy played like an MVP in the playoffs. Bad question, long-ranging question. take it where you want to go with it.
No, I think it's a great question. It's a great big picture question. I think it's a mixture of both of what you were talking about. There isn't the dominant force like a LeBron James or like a Jordan, or even when Kobe was in those 3 straight finals from 2008 to 2010. There isn't that dominant force in the NBA right now. And maybe like a Wemby becomes that guy, or maybe an Anthony Edwards takes a crazy leap and becomes that guy.
I guess Shea,
yeah. You could even say, but there's and Jokic is the best player, like by far in the NBA. But what you're seeing now is the.
I don't think by far is fair.
I think who do you have two, like Shea or
I think Shea and Luka. I think Shea and Luka are right there. Luka's a weird
there's a pretty big gap
right
between
now.
Jokic and those guys.
Luka,
I don't think
go look at
gap
before
is
this
strong.
year. Luka's playoff stats are pretty insane.
I would put Giannis ahead of Luka, honestly. I got Luka.
I think Giannis is right there. I probably have Giannis fourth, but yeah.
But anyway, there's not like a dominant presence. Even if you consider like a Jokic or Shea a dominant presence, what there certainly isn't is super teams anymore. And there's no like dynastic runs that you're going to see. You're not going to see a Jordan type run. You're not going to see a LeBron Heat type run because you can't build those super teams because of the restrictions of the CBA. So is this the new norm is what you're asking? Yeah, I think it is. I don't think you're going to see like what you're seeing is you haven't seen a repeat champion since 2018, the 2018 Warriors. And now it's so much parity in the NBA. And part of that is because of the destruction of super teams and dynasties, but it's also the new CBA is going to make it even harder. Where even you look at this Thunder team, Jalen Williams and Chet Holmgren are both due for an extension this summer. They earn those extensions throughout these playoffs, regardless of what happens in Game 7. So both those guys are about to get paid. When those guys get paid and those extensions hit in a couple of years, what is that going to sacrifice for the Thunder? Depth. So this team that relies on so much depth and so much talent around the margins, they're not going to have that necessarily because they're going to have to pay those guys. And that's just the restrictions of the CBA. So I think this is a new norm where you're going to see different teams every year make these improbable runs who are properly built around with their depth around a really good player who can impact the game like a Tyrese Halliburton. And you're just not going to see dominant teams where the superstars are going to get together like they tried to with the Suns, and it was a disaster. That's not what exists in this new era of the NBA.
2-part question here for both of you guys, and Sean, I'll let you expand on that later or here as well. But a 2-part question. You mentioned OKC's not going to be able to keep those depth. Is OKC uniquely positioned, though, and has kind of cracked the code on this, where they still have I almost just cursed. They still have a ton of picks coming in. And not to mention, they just drafted. I had Nikola Topic as like my number 3 player last year, I think.
It's hidden away.
And I kind of forgot he existed. It was like a random March game. And I think they showed him on the bench. And I was like, Nikola Topic is on the Thunder? What are we doing here? And I think I talked about it on the show. But are they uniquely positioned to kind of break that mold and crack that code? I'll go to Sean first and then Sam.
Yeah, I do think they are, and you just got to hit on your draft picks, and they've done an excellent job of that in recent years. So the track record pretty strong. There obviously will be financial hurdles, no different than every team in the league. I mean, we're looking at the Boston Celtics trying to figure things out and get through it after they sort of went all in to have this championship core and keep everybody together. They're going to try and crack the code for how to get around it. So we're going to see each team sort of fight these battles, but I do think Oklahoma City is in a unique spot to kind of combat these himself. Now, as far as the overall question, with like this team-based thing versus stars and all this, I do think this is a trend that the NBA is now going to follow. And it feels like too often it is a copycat league where one team wins an NBA championship and every team looks at that as the secret right there. That it was the big 3 model for so long, where it is, can you get 3 stars under the salary cap and find a way to make it work and just fill out the roster with the rest? Then it was this concept of you just get 1 star and a bunch of role players around him to maximize each other. Sort of the Nikola Jokic model there. Then the Boston Celtics are this team that is just going to jack threes, and this is the new style. And we see this uptick or increase in 3-point volume across the NBA. I guess my message would be here, I don't think that there is one blanket way that is the best way to win basketball games. And I think every organization should look themselves in the mirror, seeing what is our best pathway, not as there is no blueprint for just the way to win. But I do think there's something to this Pacers team not going all in on one specific guy. And Halliburton, obviously the head of the snake, but it isn't on that same tier of these Shai Gilgeous-Alexanders, the Luka Doncic, the Giannis, all these guys that we just argued about here. He's not. He just isn't in that tier, but that hasn't hurt the team whatsoever, and he can still put on that cape for stretches when he needs to. So I do think team-oriented basketball is kind of shifting that pendulum back in that direction, and I do think a lot of teams will look at depth with a little bit of a higher focus moving forward.
Real quick, just to add on to that, there's not a specific blueprint in terms of play style, but I do think the blueprint is you're not just putting together a bunch of superstars like we did in the past and just say, okay, these are the best players on the floor. That's going to equal success in the postseason, because we've seen that's not the case anymore. So I think what the blueprint is building out a great team where you don't have any weak links. Like you can have, if you have a guy like Tyrese Halliburton, who's not going to be the best player in a lot of series, but your 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th guy are all better than other teams 4 through 8, then that's the formula for success.
Yeah, I totally agree with both of what you said there. But I guess we have a lot of time to have those conversations. We have all offseason to have those conversations. We can dive deeper on that. I think that's a really interesting topic in general, kind of big picture. But keeping it small picture, we do have a game 7 here. And in terms of the gambling line, I don't think I'm touching it. Like
Really? Not Pacers money line?
I've kind of backed off since game 4 of the gambling side of this series. Didn't really bet on game 5 or game 6. And I don't have a conviction on this game. I think OKC probably wins. And my general principle is that I don't bet underdogs when I don't think they have like a 40+% chance of winning. But 7.5 is a lot of points. I think it is disrespectful. It's down from 9 where it opened. Sam, where are you? And then the total is 214.5. Where are you going? What's your kind of best bet here for game 7?
Yeah, I've had a lot of conviction this entire postseason of just fading the Pacers. And now it's the last game of the NBA season, and I have zero conviction. And I'm not going to fade the Pacers. If anything, I think I'm actually going to back them. I'm going to come all the way around on the other side. And I haven't completely placed anything yet, but by the time 8 o'clock hits tomorrow night, I think I'm going to be on the Pacers spread just because it's too many points. And what Game 7 history shows us is these games are competitive. Like, this is a Game 7 in the NBA Finals. Neither of these teams are going to roll over. This isn't even a Game 7 in the second round where the Thunder just blew the doors off the Nuggets, and that wasn't even competitive at all. This is the NBA Finals. This is going to be a super competitive game, and I think the odds makers have just disrespected the Pacers all season, and they haven't really been killed for it because bettors haven't taken advantage of it. But it's still like it's disrespectful. This 7.5 point spread in the NBA Finals. This team that has just made an improbable run. They've been underdogs in every single game this series and won 3 of them outright. That's why we're in this Game 7 position. I think the Thunder win, but I think it's like a 4 or 5 point win that really comes down to the last couple possessions.
Sean?
Yeah, this is certainly one where my head and heart disagree on that. My heart here is all in on this Indiana Pacers team. I do believe it, but there is something in the back of my mind that could see a world where the Thunder just absolutely go BTA season, and that's how this ends up going down. The talent is the clear advantage to Oklahoma City, but I also think they've played with their food to an extent in this series, particularly in Game 6. I didn't think they brought it whatsoever, and if there is one case to continue to be made, it is about the youth of this team. If Indiana can get it down to crunch time, if they can weather the storm, which I'm confident there will be 1 or 2 just runs for the Thunder, which absolutely attempt to take over the game. If the Pacers can weather those and get them down to crunch time, I think they win that basketball game. So I will be riding the plus 7.5 and taking a swing on Pacers money line because I got to go with my heart here. But there is something holding me back a little bit that says the Thunder could just wake up in Game 7.
That's kind of where I'm at. I think there's too high of a chance of a Thunder beatdown for me to want to place the bet on 7.5. So.
It seems like we're all kind of on the same page where we don't take any stock in that Game 6. That's just a young team looking young, and we've seen that really throughout the playoffs with this Thunder team.
I still give the credit to the Pacers, though. Like that wasn't. I wasn't sure the Pacers could beat the Thunder like that, to be perfectly honest. So I do give them props for it.
But the Wolves did the same thing in the last series, and that was a 5-game thing. So that's just when the Thunder don't have their foot on the gas, that's what they look like.
Sure.
And they're at home in Game 6. I feel like we've seen that so many times. I mean, we've seen the zombie Sixers do it like multiple times in Game 6, where like against the Hawks, when everybody in the city wanted, the whole team to go on a plane to Jamaica instead of having to watch Game 6, and they came out and won, and Tyrese Maxey won them the game, and that's happened a couple times. Like Toronto, they smoked Toronto in Game 6 before losing in Game 7. And it's not just the Sixers, but speaking of the Sixers. Of course, it wouldn't be a normal day in Sixerland without
Never.
a weird storyline. And by the way, the Ace Bailey thing, it's like it doesn't even faze me because it wouldn't be in the top 50 of weird storylines the Sixers have been involved in for the last 10 to 15 years. Sean Barnard is just he's such a phony over there with the Ace Bailey hater. The guy was an Ace super fan 2 days ago.
We have a lot of receipts, Mark. We both have
a lot of receipts.
And then he just middle fingered our great organization here in Philadelphia.
Yeah, our great organization. He might be right. Yeah, how about that for a take? I think Ace might be right.
That's a good spin zone. That's a good spin zone.
Nothing says winning culture like the Brooklyn Nets and Washington Wizards, man.
At least it's a new culture and a culture that you can help be a part of creating. But no, Ace's team is really, really bungling this whole situation. I think, and based on what we know, it seems like a joke. He has Sharif Cooper's dad as an agent. Yep. I guess what I'll say is I'll take this a different angle. The people who are like, oh my God, the Sixers are going to take Ace Bailey now. Like that tweet said that they're still considering it. That tweet said that so someone could potentially trade up. And that's died down. I think he's clearly falling in the draft a little bit, but I think he's probably not going to fall past 8. I think I have a hard time seeing Brooklyn passing on him if he gets that far. I have a hard time seeing Utah pass on him, despite the rumors. I have a hard time seeing New Orleans pass on him at 7, despite some of the rumors. There was early rumors that they loved him, and I think some of the rumors since that they've refuted that. But I think he probably still goes 5, 7, or 8. But I kind of just don't think it's worth having much of a conversation about him relating to the Sixers because it's over. They're not drafting him. It's not happening.
This could have been a very heated conversation if it was still a possibility of them drafting him. But we were all together when the Sixers got that number 3 pick. Us 3 were together, and I immediately said VJ Edgecombe is the guy. So in my view, I know it's certainly not your guys' view, definitely not Mark's view. I think the Sixers, but I'm saying I think the Sixers dodged a bullet, but by what happened with the Ace stuff. And I don't know exactly. It's 100% his camp handled this really poorly. But I don't know exactly what his camp is looking at on film. Like this guy has this, like he
all right. He shot 39% from 3 for the first 24 games of the year. He shot 52% from the field, averaging 21 and 8.
He has the talent for sure.
That's flaws for sure. But that's not. He's not Cam Whitmore. He's not.
I'm not saying that, but his film. I'm just like his film was why there was concerns in the first place. I think even without all this extracurricular stuff, I don't think the Sixers were going to take him for a reason because his film is concerning based on the shot selection, based on the inefficiency, based on like his shot profile, just not one that you want for a guy who has to contribute to an NBA team immediately. That's always been my concern with Ace Bailey, and that's why I think the Sixers should have passed him. So that's what I mean by what he's showing on film. It's like this guy isn't some clear-cut prospect. He's a provocative prospect. There are a lot of people who think he's going to be an amazing player, a lot of people who think he's going to be a complete bust. So it's not like you have this surefire thing, and that's what his camp can't understand. Regardless of where we stand on it, his camp needs to understand that this guy isn't some surefire thing in NBA scouts and personnel people's mind. So I think his camp has handled it really poorly. I also think there's the maturity concerns which are playing out here, and that's not means he's a bad kid or anyway. He would do anything wrong. He's a young kid, and I think a lot of young kids have some maturity concerns. But that's always been my point with the Sixers drafting VJ Edgecombe is that they need a win now ready guy. They can't baby some immature guy who has a long way to go to develop as some NBA superstar, which some people like you guys project him as.
I did not project Ace as a superstar, but my difference in Ace is that I think the floor is so much higher than what you're selling it as. His defense is legitimately impactful and was impactful in a terrible situation, averaging over a steal a game, 1.5 blocks per game. He was the much better defender of the 2 players at Rutgers. And I think watching him on defense and watching his motor on defense is why I've kind of never concerned about like the off the court stuff or the kind of the stuff about him as a person. Nothing about what's happened is affecting my stance on him as a basketball player. I think he's going to end up somewhere on the Jaylen Brown, OG, McHale scale. I wouldn't call that a superstar, but I'd call that a really, really good player.
Jaylen Brown was a Finals MVP.
Would you call Jaylen Brown a superstar?
No, but I think he's a level above OG and McHale for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
I'd
fair.
agree with that.
That's fair. But I think Jalen's probably like a top 25 guy, and they're probably like top 40, top 50 guys. So it's probably like 10 to 15 spots of difference. It's actually kind of to my point. Like I was kind of trying to give him like a little bit of a range there. And I do think Jalen also, I'm more or less so talking about finals MVP Jalen. If you go back and look at like up to 2022, I think it was, Jalen's assist turnover rates were still negative.
He couldn't go left. He couldn't go left for like
can't
years.
really.
Still can't. Yeah.
He's improved quite a bit, but there are concerns still. But his ball handling certainly improved. Jalen Brown's developed. His development in the NBA has been very impressive.
He's averaging 4 or 5 assists per game now, which I don't think that's something Ace will ever do. But 2022, Jalen Brown was still the second best player on a team that went to the finals, second best player on a team that's had a lot of playoff success up to that point. So I think he could be that type of Jalen Brown, maybe not the one we've seen, especially in last season, not this season. And then Sean, I'll pass it over to you to tell me why everything you've been saying the last 2 months is wrong, and Ace Bailey actually sucks.
Yeah, no, I'm not backtracking off all that, but I do want to hit pretty hard on his camp stuff. For starters, Ace Bailey, not a bad guy, but taking some very bad advice right now. And like, for starters, I don't excuse Ace from this because you could go to CAA, you could go to Clutch, you could go to any agency in the world that you want, and because you have this. Go ahead.
Trill did say that apparently Sharif Cooper's dad, I guess there's some high school ties to where
he was his AAU coach.
Apparently, I don't want to speak out of school. From what I heard, this is alleged that he's like a father figure. Maybe, yeah. Maybe there's not a great.
It's not uncommon what we're seeing right now.
Yeah.
Like where an influential person in someone's life who grew up with them, it becomes their handler and guy.
It isn't, but that's not exactly an agent. Like a lot of those guys still have.
Yeah. I think it's a personal. Like I think it's like a personal relationship, and those are.
I'm not saying you need to turn your back on this dude that's obviously been with you for a huge part of the climb, but you can have another person helping make decisions here, and directly should. This is you. Like, for starters here, to tie it to the Sixers conversation, where I do think this is directly harmful is I still think the Sixers' number one goal of draft day, what their ideal night would be trading down a couple picks, still making a selection, and picking up additional stuff. There is no longer any leverage because Ace Bailey has broadcast to the world quite clearly that he doesn't want to come to Philadelphia here. And the other part, what I think is incredibly short-sighted by the Ace Bailey camp here, is even under the best of circumstances, in general, high-profile wings don't make day one impact in the NBA. Look at Paul George. Look at Kawhi Leonard. Look at Jason Tatum here. Like, the pathway to development for these guys is you have a pretty simplified role at the start, and then you scale up year after year. There is a perfect opportunity for him to do that in Philadelphia if he would accept that. To get to this rush, to go to a Washington Wizards or a Charlotte Hornets or a Brooklyn Nets, so you can shoot the ball 20 times a game, if you think that's putting you in the driver's seat for maximizing your earnings at the NBA level, it's just not. I've seen Kelly Oubre average 20 points per game for the Charlotte Hornets and be on a veteran's minimum next year. I've also seen Jonathan Kuminga play in a very minimized role with the Golden State Warriors and get straight up paid. If you're that guy, if you're this caliber of talent, you will find your role in the NBA. That you should not be. And even if we're going to do the agency stance, you directly make more money when you're drafted third versus when you're drafted sixth here. So if your goal is still to get him in the right spot, which I understand that ranks higher in the priorities or whatever, you very well or very easily could have used the Sixers as such a key leverage point. So he fumbled it from that area as well. So I just hate every bit of how this went down. I do think it's detrimental to the Sixers from like their draft approach kind of standpoint here. And it's just maddening that I think Ace has people very clearly getting in the way of like his future, which makes me frustrated for him.
Yeah, I think it's a shame. And I will say the one thing I disagree with, I don't think going to a bad team is always necessarily negative for your development. Like we have seen guys like Devin Booker and plenty of others, I think, play on some bad teams and develop into pretty winning players or guys that have went to the finals or won finals or whatever. I mean, I always said for a long time that I think part of the problem with Ben Simmons' development was that Ben Simmons year one won 52 games. So from right away, Ben Simmons was on the hook and on the hot seat to go win games, go win playoff games, be the first or second best player. Don't try new things And he should have. Obviously, he could.
That guy just didn't work. Like,
I'm not. It is forgotten though. Like we won 50+ games like multiple years with him as the second best player. Like
he was a legit all-star. People do forget that. Like,
so there is something to be said about like I do think Ben's career, and obviously there's obvious problems with him just as a person, but Ben's career I think does play out differently if he goes to a bad team right away. I think it forces him to create more for himself. It forces him to try more things. I don't think he would have had the same arrogance right away, too, because he walked into the league and became an all-star immediately, became the second best player on a team that was like very quickly favored to win the East. I remember like pretty quickly at that first year. I don't necessarily think it's like the team building thing. Like I don't think it's a one size fits all. Every player is different. For instance, like I think Trey Johnson would be best off going to Utah or like Brooklyn or Washington, where he can basically be the face of the team and like go develop into whatever like elite level shot maker, creator guy you can be, or whatever if you're going to be Malik Beasley and be a role player, we're going to find that out. But, we can pretty easily see, the development in that, I think. But
I think a good example, I was just thinking as you were talking, two examples that's kind of Scoot Henderson, and that's a pretty crowded situation at guard with the Blazers, but he made quite a big leap from year one. And I'm not the biggest Scoot Henderson guy, but he was much better this year than he was last year. And
you've fallen victim to the narratives, the Scoot narrative.
No, he had a better year. You don't believe it?
Go look at his stats. It's not that much better.
I watched more Blazers games than I would have liked.
He had a month. He finished
the season pretty strong.
It was actually like February, March. He ended up tailing off. I think he shot like 15% from three in April or something like that. But it's crazy if you go look at his splits. So this is how I know this. This is a tangent, but I was a Brandon Miller guy in that draft. Like one of my biggest takes in recent years was Miller over Scoot. I
still love Brandon Miller. Yep.
Miller was really good as a rookie. He shot like 15
injuries.
Shot like 11 threes a game this year, like in like the 20 games he played. So he had like he had a really weird season, and they're a dumpster fire. But Trill gave me credit on a stream we did recently where he said like, oh, Mark was a Miller over Scoot guy, so obviously he's not totally crazy, and I think it was in relation to Ace. But and then I was like, oh well, Scoot is playing better, so maybe I'm on the hot seat with that, and he's like, the Scoot PR got you. Like go, and we pulled up the stats live on the stream. It's shocking how
you are right about the stats.
It's shocking.
I'm telling you, like I remember watching him as a rookie, and then watching like more Blazers games I would have liked to this year. I'm like, just the aggressiveness, the decision making. I don't have the turnover numbers in front of me, but I'd venture to say those were down. The shot's still really never going to be there. I'm not saying Scoot's going to be a great player in the league, but to me, just eyeball, Scoot had a much better year and developed year two than year one. But I get your point 100%. The stats are down. You're right about that.
I think he shot 40% from three for like a 5 or 6 week stretch, which I don't think anybody thinks that's a thing with him or going to be possible. Yeah. So
turnovers were down a decent bit, which is important.
They were improved this year in general, but I think it was mostly just he had a really, really nice month and a half. I think that'll be an interesting thing to track because Portland's one of like many teams in the draft here, and we can transition this to a Derek Queen conversation real fast. But I think there's a lot of teams in the like middle of the draft, like Houston at 10. Houston at 10, if you stick and pick, let's say they're not making a Kevin Durant pick or Kevin Durant trade or Giannis trade or whatever it is, and they're just running back a similar team and they're picking 10. What does Houston need? Like Reed Shepherd couldn't get minutes last year because there was too many guards. On defense or at center, you have Adams, who you just paid as your backup center. You're keeping Şengün around. At wing, you have so many you can't get them minutes. You have Brooks, you have Eason, you have Whitmore, you have obviously Thompson, who I almost consider like I don't even know what. It's not really a wing or a guard or a big. He's kind of like his own unicorn type. But what do you need if you're Houston? Like I kind of feel the same way about Portland. Like Portland, you have Simons and Scoot and Shadon, and you have a bunch of wings now. You have or you have Klingon and Ayton at the like. There's a lot of these teams in the middle of the draft who I feel like are weird fits for whoever they draft, and Queen is probably going to go in that range. Where are you thinking Queen goes? Where are you hoping he goes? Kind of what's your outlook on Queen a week away from the draft, or less than a week away from the draft?
Yeah, I got to run in a couple minutes, but
yeah.
Real quick, first, I just want to say that I've been doing my draft prep over the last 3 or 4 weeks, and you pitched me on Jace Richardson months ago, and I was like, oh, yeah, I think he could be a good player. We'll see. And your dog loves the Jace Richardson takes.
Big time.
Jace is a dog, yeah.
Jace is a dog. So, and I was like, oh, I think he'll be a good player, but really diving into the film and everything over the last 3 weeks, I love Jace Richardson. I am fully bought in on him. I can't believe he didn't get a draft green room invite. Some of the guys there was 24 guys got a green room invite, and Jace Richardson didn't. If he slips past 24, that would be a massive steal for whoever got some. I think his floor is a really good role player in the NBA, and I don't think he's going to be some like star by any stretch, not at all. But I think he's going to be a contributing player to a really good team in the NBA. Yeah, go ahead.
A little bit smaller Jared McCain without the zest of the TikTok.
I said a little bit. Well, he can't shoot like Jared McCain. He shoots not off the dribble like Jared McCain. He was 41% from three, but a lot of them were he can play off the ball, which is what I like about him.
Down the stretch, though, when they gave him more on-ball opportunities, I thought he really improved on that down the stretch. And kind of similar to McCain. McCain was a kid who right away wasn't like the lead guard or kind of like guy controlling the ball a lot. I
was saying a smaller Derek White. Because he's just really good pick and roll, really good catch and shoot shooter, but he's a good pick and roll decision maker, really efficient, but he's not going to run a million of those a game. So I see a little smaller Derek White, probably not as good as him because he's borderline star, but yeah.
I think the problem with Derek White is so much of it's wrapped into defense. My thing with Jace is like, if we're not going McCain, and not to keep it all Sixers, I feel like it's like Seth Curry, if a slightly worse shooting Seth Curry, a slightly more juice on offense Seth Curry in terms of like
definitely more juice.
Yeah,
definitely more juice, like off the dribble and like if Seth Curry was a slightly worse shooter, he's not an NBA player. Like that's all Seth Curry does.
And if his name wasn't Curry, probably.
yeah, fair.
Seth was really good at one point.
He was.
No, he had some amazing shooting seasons. I think he actually led the NBA in 3-point percentage this year.
Sixers franchise record for 3-point percentage.
He was on Game 5 that we lost in that building. That's like my villain origin story of not getting on ESPN that night. But he had 35 points in that game. Fun fact.
Yeah.
Joel had like 37 and they lost that game.
To answer your question about Derek Queen before Sean jumps on me and I'll respond, then I'll probably just duck and leave once.
Yeah, that's fine.
Look, I think Derek Queen's going to be an awesome player. And, yeah, you can say it's biased because I'm a Maryland guy and I'm going to root for him no matter what as a Maryland guy. But I also watched almost every single Maryland game this year. Like he has skills as a big that are just every NBA team wants right now. He can put the ball on the floor. He can operate in isolation from the nail, from the top of the key. He's a great passer, great touch, great feel for the game. Not a great three-point shooter, but 5 of his 7 made threes came in the last 4 games of the season. So he improved, and you can see the touch is there, and he's a good free throw shooter, so that can project well, that he can develop a shot. There are defensive concerns. So when you ask me where do I want to see him go, it's to the Wizards, because I think that front court pairing with him and Alex Sarr would be exceptional, because Derek Queen has concerns as a defender, but when he's paired with a great rim protector like Alex Sarr, who I think he can be a really good big in this league and showed flashes as a great rim protector as a rookie last year for the Wizards, I think that's a perfect pairing. And we saw Derek Queen on offense play with a rim running 5 like Julian Reese was last year for Maryland. So I think Derek Queen, wherever he goes, he's going to have an exceptional career, but I'd like to see him with the Wizards because I think that's a good fit. And they just had him in his backyard for the last few years. Well, he's from Maryland, went to IMG Academy, and then played ball at Maryland. So the Wizards should be very familiar with him.
I'll just say this before throwing it to Sean. That would be a Hindenburg level disaster taking Derek Queen 6. But
he could go 3 for all I care. He's that good.
He'd go 18 for all I could see as well.
I have him 16.
Yeah, I don't think that's crazy, Mark. Sam, we can fully take the gloves off on our debate for Monday when we really want to dig into this, but I want you to marinate on like this specific question a little bit. Like, what do you see his NBA role being? Because that's what I continue to struggle with. Is he a 4? Is he a 5? Can he guard on the perimeter? Is he going to be good enough as a rim protector and rebounder there? What do you project as like his NBA role?
It's more of a.
Randall-ish?
It's what'd you say?
Randall-ish?
No, I hate that compare. I really hate. I've seen that a lot because Randall's like a downhill bully ball driver. And he's not. Randall's even close to the passer that Derek Queen is.
I would argue Randall.
I think Randall's a much better passer than Queen.
No way.
I had years where he averages like 6 assists per game.
Yeah,
it's not about the assists per game. It's about the passing instincts that Queen showed all season, where he just makes these.
He averaged like 1.5 assists.
1.9 negative assist to turnover ratio. Never had more than 5 assists in a game, and had 1 or 0 in 19
instincts
games.
That you see from like an Alperen Sengun or like a Sabonis, guys like that who can
both
operate
better
in the
passers
short
than
role.
Derek Queen.
Like, and it's hard to compare those guys. They didn't play college, right? Or did Sabonis play college? Or
I think he did. I think he came over for college for a year. Let's check.
I can't remember Sabonis in college. I don't remember Sabonis much as a prospect.
He played at Gonzaga.
Yeah.
Wow.
But to answer your question, what role will Derek Queen play? To me, it's more as a 4 with a great rim protecting 5 what you saw with Maryland last year is like Derek Queen can operate as a hub of an offense. Like you see a Sabonis do sometimes. And Sabonis is an undersized 5. And I like to see Sabonis play more of the 4, honestly, because their defense struggles because of it. Maryland had one of the best defenses in the country last year when Derek Queen was playing the 4. And that's because when you have a great 5, you can kind of mask some of those concerns when he's guarding on the perimeter, which makes sense. Offensively, though, Derek Queen, when he's playing the 4 as a short roll playmaker, if he develops more of a shot, operating as a hub of an offense, when you have a 5 kind of hanging out in the dunker spot, I like that. And then offensively, he can also play the 5 because he's if he develops a shot, because he has those passing skills and you can kind of go 5 out or him as the hub. There are defensive concerns. Don't get me wrong. I see those both as a rim protector and guarding the perimeter. But I think that's partly it was a motor thing and an energy thing last year. And I think there's an opportunity for him to grow in that area.
By the way, Julius Randle was definitely like a hub of an offense for the Knicks.
At Kentucky too.
I would say for the Knicks, like
hub of the offense.
Definitely.
Okay, but hub of the offense for Julius Randle is like he's getting a lot of the touches, a lot of mid post catches, and all that. Hub for Derek Queen,
Derek Queen. Yeah,
Derek Queen is like top of the key, like nail touches, and there's kind of a lot of cutting movement, DHOs off him. Like you don't see DHOs off of Randle, and I just like Randle is not the pass. Like I understand he averaged a lot of assists.
He's a better passer than Derek Queen. Straight up.
In the NBA, that will not be the case.
I have Queen 16th, and I think I started with him at like 10th, so I don't want to make it seem like
who's 13, 14, 15 for you?
If
you Queen 16.
I'll give you right above Queen. I have Clayton at 15. Walter
Come on. That guy's tiny. You can't even see over the defense.
That's a fair concern. I have Jace like much higher than Clayton.
I like Jace.
Jace is small. So I do think that like there are times where small guards can play with special elite skills, but Nick Clifford, I have 14th.
He's my favorite prospect in this draft, so I'm not going to argue that.
Will Riley,
other than the big ones.
Will Riley, I have 13th, and I think there's fair concerns about Will Riley's defense. Will Riley, like I think I can like more accurately defend all of my other guys above Queen based on stats. Will Riley's an eye test guy for me, where it's just like when I watch him, I'm like, that's what a wing feels like at 18. Like he's like 6'9", he's super athletic and can like kind of handle for himself and get to the hole. And I like the form shooting wise, even if he didn't shoot that well in college. So I won't go like through my whole board, but I don't want to make it seem like Queen has no chance to be a good player. Like I don't think that. Like I think that he definitely has a chance to be a good player, and I think he's got special touch around the rim. Clearly for a big, I think he's got more so than the passing. I think he's got special ball handling ability for a big in terms of not getting kind of like stolen. Doubles aren't going to kill him at all, even regardless of the passing. More so about like handling in the post. Where I differ, and the defense is what the defense is. I'm actually like, you could convince me more on the defense than the hubs. The hub stuff to me, Queen Hub. Where that's like sounds like a whatever, a website. But I think I don't know. But Derek Queen, I don't buy like the Şengün hub stuff. Even Randall. My problem with the Randall comparison is I think if he was as special of a passer as people make him out to be, and I think in high school he was especially regarded as a passer. I know that it's not just assists based on passing. He'd average more than 1.9 assists per game. He didn't have a single game with more than 5 assists, like Sean said. Like I think we would have seen that stuff pop out more in college than it did, especially with how much he had the ball in his hands at Maryland. I think the hub stuff is where people go too far, personally.
I'm just telling you, like, the vision and the basketball instincts are there. Trust me when I say, like, watching a guy like that, the vision and the basketball instincts are there. So yeah, maybe the assists weren't there, but he is a great passer. He's only going to develop into a better passer. The guy is 19 years old. And the last thing I'll say is, you just don't pass on bigs who are that skilled. Like, those guys usually work out in the NBA. You figure out the defensive, you figure out the positional concerns. But bigs who are that skilled in the NBA, you don't pass on those guys who can pass, who can put the ball on the floor, who have great touch around the rim, great free throw shooters. You just don't pass on bigs who are that skilled, because those guys usually work in the NBA, and it's going to be no different with Derek Queen.
And there he is. I'll let you guys save it for Monday. Sam's got to go. Sam Oshtry, you can follow him on Twitter at S Oshtry. Go follow his stuff over at The Score. He'll be doing prayer circles for Derek Queen to end up in the DMV coming. I can't believe the draft is 4 days away, but 4 days away. And Sean and Sam will be breaking it down all week, I'm sure, all things related to the NBA draft. Thanks so much for coming on, Sam.
Appreciate it, guys. I'll talk to you soon.
Sounds good.
Of course, yeah. One of our favorite guests there, Sam Oshtry, talking all things basketball. I actually meant to ask him. You probably know more than me. Is Sam a Phillies fan?
I believe, yeah, I'm pretty sure he is.
I've never seen him talk about. He's not a big baseball guy. I think.
Yeah,
Right?
I don't think a big baseball guy, but I'm pretty sure he's all Philly teams except for the Knicks, of course. Which
the Knicks one made me think, maybe he's a Yankees guy. I don't know. I was curious. We'll have to ask him about that next time. But speaking of the Phils, on the other side, we're going to talk all things relating to the biggest series of the year so far for our Fightins. Here we are in late June with the best record not only in the National League East, but in the National League. 1 game up on those evil Mets from New York, and we got 2 more to go here. So 2 big games to break down, especially last night and tonight, coming up on the other side here on the Tucker Radio Show.
Yo, is any sound coming through for you this time?
No.
Okay.
No big deal. If they can hear us, then no big deal.
Yeah, I think we're gonna stick with it. I don't.
Wasn't as hard as she thought, but she went to AutoZone, where a friendly AutoZoner helped her find the right oil and save on an oil filter. He explained the job and showed her free how-tos on AutoZone.com. When she was done, AutoZone recycled her old oil for free. No hassles, just help. Everything you need, nothing you don't. AutoZone. Restrictions apply.
Reeves is making waves with a fantastic new flavor, Kool-Aid Strawberry Thin Ice. Oh, yeah! With a delicious blend of orange, strawberry, and banana, this fruity, refreshing flavor is perfect for any summer adventure. Try it blended in an ice blender tray or stacked with frozen custard in our 5-layer gelati. Don't wait! Kool-Aid Strawberry Thin Ice is only here for a limited time. Dive into deliciousness today and earn sweet rewards with the Rita's app.
Oh yeah, baby. Gerhardt's has free local delivery and assembly on all Weber grills, $5.99 and up. All you backyard barbecue behemoths, better get your Kiss the Brisket Boss bids on now, because it's officially grilling season at Gerhardt's Appliances. Gerhardt's Appliances, helping Philly get fired up for summer since 1945. And don't forget, free local delivery to Simply on all weather grills, $5.99 and up, only at Gerhardt.
At Straight Up, we are all about no-brainers. Calling Grandma for her recipe, no-brainer. Streaming one more episode at 2 a.m., big no-brainer. Getting real unlimited data when you buy banana, the ultimate no-brainer. Switch now and get a free sample. G-Power 5 through 2025 with plan. Straight Talk, real unlimited data. Available at Walmart and StraightTalk.com. Offer valid 7/2025. Taxes and fees apply. Requires in-store activation. Single line golden limit.
Cholesterol, I'd have to double check, like PFF grades and other data that we've got to justify that. But losing a left tackle when you've got a 37-year-old quarterback in Stafford, it's kind of a big deal.
Are you ready for some emails, Dave Richard?
I'm always ready for you.
Well, I am not. We got to take a break. When we come back, then I'll be ready for emails at fantasyfootball@cbsi.com right after this. Just because the college basketball season is over does not mean the fun has to stop, and it will not stop on the Eye on College Basketball podcast. I'm Matt Norlander, and every week me and Gary Parrish will continue throughout the offseason to give you multiple shows weekly that dive into the stories, the interesting trends, what you need to know, portal comings and goings, the new coaches and new spots, and of course, every week in the deep dives of players to know, and give you mock drafts as well. So continue to subscribe and listen because we still got the goods, and really, really appreciate all you guys on this podcast over the years. Subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts, or if you want to watch it, we love that as well. You can subscribe to the Eye on College Basketball podcast on CBS Sports Basketball on YouTube now.
Now streaming. TV's quirkiest crime solver. That's fantastic. Is on the case. I like my outlandish theories with and ready to go toe-to-toe with a cavalcade of guest stars. This moment of the critically acclaimed all episodes now streaming on Paramount Plus and return CBS Fall.
Okay, this first email is from Henry. Where is he from?
Henry is from Detroit, Michigan.
When you hear the name Henry, what movie do you think? Yeah, right? It's just automatic. Henry is from yeah, that's the that's it. What else could it be? When you hear the name Rocky, what movie do you guys think? Okay, Henry says, with the 101, I'm taking Jamar Chase. Is it worth a bit of a reach to take Burrow at 501 for the stack as opposed to waiting for the later round values?
Yeah, he's there.
Right. I don't think it's a reach to take him at 501. Joe Burrow. But this is a guy that I was referring to earlier. I really think Joe Burrow is incredibly underrated, especially in 6-point per passing touchdown leagues. He has had basically 2 elite years of the last 3, and 2023. What the hell was this? It wasn't the appendectomy. He came in hurt.
2023 hurt his calf.
And he got off to a really bad start. But then once he clicked, he was so good. So I think Burrow is such a safe, good player to draft. And if he had 501, that's terrific. And I would have no problem with that stat. What do you think about him, Jimmy? Even that was the other point. Even in 4-point per passing touchdown leagues, he's been huge 2 of the last 3 years.
Is it safe to say, fantasy-wise, because obviously there are a lot of guys who can do great things throwing the football, that he's the best non-running quarterback?
Oh, yeah. Fantasy-wise? Oh, yeah, absolutely. Now, I don't think in a 4-point per passing touchdown league, I'm looking at his 2022 season. His 2022 season was in 16 games, 4,475 yards, 35 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, plus another 5 rushing touchdowns. So per 17 games for Burrow, you're talking more than 40 touchdowns rushing and receiving. You're talking probably 4700 passing yards. Amazing year. Did not even come close to Jalen Hurts, Josh Allen, and Patrick Mahomes in 4-point passing touchdown leagues on a per game basis.
Wasn't as hard as she thought, because she went to AutoZone, where a friendly AutoZoner helped her find the right oil and save on an oil filter. He explained the job and showed her free how-tos on AutoZone.com. When she was done, AutoZone recycled her old oil for free. No hassles, just help. Everything you need, nothing you don't. Restrictions apply.
I've always gotten my son to ATI. Wonder how it's gonna work for me. I was desperate.
It's gonna be a good time for Joe Burrow. 5th round's great. All right, from Lewis. Hi, Adam. I usually wait to draft quarterback, and I struggled last year with the game. I played in a 12-team WWE league. 4-point passing touchdown. Here's that. So then he missed it where the quarterbacks were drafted last year, and they started with Josh Allen with the 2nd pick of round 3, and 3 quarterbacks in round 4. So he said, if I apply last year's draft results to one quarterback rounds.
This is Doug Gottlieb. Here's what's trending from the iHeart Sports Network.
Presented by AutoZone.
After grabbing a Series win in Miami, the Phillies are back home. They'll face the Mets. Philadelphia tied the New York now.
Yo.
How long we got?
Like 30 seconds. All right, cool. Sweet. Gotcha.
On a 60-day IL now. And the LA Dodgers are delaying plans to unveil initiatives to assist immigrant communities after federal agents tried to enter their ballpark yesterday. I'm Scott Davidson. Starting stronger starts at AutoZone, where they've got battery solutions in the form of free battery testing, free battery charging, and replacement batteries that fit your needs. That's what makes them America's #1 battery destination. Get in the zone. AutoZone.
#1 on your car radio preset and the new and improved iHeartRadio app. WDAX, WD273D, Philadelphia is Fox Sports Radio, the Gambler.
Welcome back to the Tough Cover Radio Show right here on Fox Sports The Gambler, talking about the Fightins, the Phils, the best record in the National League. All of a sudden, things were not looking good pretty recently. And the Mets have had their slump. It's almost like there's 162 games in a baseball season, Sean Barnard.
Yeah, there sure are a lot of them. So I do think like this team, we obviously had that real low point where I think it did get genuinely concerning here, but it does feel like they found a little something again that I think like these storylines within this team, Alec Boehm looking significantly better at the plate, Bryson Stott finding some life here, Brandon Marsh tearing the cover off the ball lately. There's been a lot of encouraging signs from top to bottom. Trey Turner certainly playing the best baseball that he has in a Phillies uniform to this point. So I think this is just a bit of this team sort of looked themselves in the mirror and said, we're all better baseball players in the way we've been playing of late. We're seeing the results kind of turn around because of it. But they caught the Mets at a good spot. I was glad they kind of laid the hammer and kept it rolling last night, and still think they can do some more damage in this series. So hopefully that's only the start.
Yeah, I think where we're at is that this rotation is the best in baseball for a reason. And when you have the best rotation in baseball and the deepest rotation I can ever remember a Phillies team having by far, even 2011, like you were deep 1-4, like, Joe Blanton is the 5. And it's not like you had anyone after that when anyone missed time. So this is the deepest rotation we've ever seen. And that is going to win you a lot of games, especially when your bullpen isn't bottom 5. And I think even if we get frustrated with moments from Strahm, moments here and there, the bottom of the bullpen's terrible. Taijuan Walker taking down a 6th inning last night was a joke. But there's concerns there. But I think that we moved the past. They're not like, the 2019 Phillies, the 2021 Phillies in terms of those bullpens of the past being totally kind of stopping whatever you want to do as a baseball team. So all the lineup really needs to do is be average to above average. And that's probably going to win this team 95 games just based on how elite the pitching is.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely true. Like, it's interesting the identity and like the fabric of this team is very much shifted to it was so built around home runs and offensive production and scoring a ton of runs that it very much has shifted to this is a pitchers driven team at this point. That the starting rotation is the key quality of this Phillies team this year. That's their identity, is that they are going to be a better pitching staff there. I still think pretty much regardless of what happens across this entire regular season, that it is obviously down to what happens in the playoffs. And I don't think that there's anything that this team could do to either prove those that believe wrong or guys that doubt to change their mind. So it is a long grind for the season. There's still like the bullpen. I know you've been more positive about the bullpen probably than I have overall here. I still would like them to go out there and add some. Like, they just need more straight up bodies. They just don't have enough trustworthy guys at this point. So there's still moves that need to be made, but I'm encouraged by what we've seen of late.
Yeah, I just think, again, like we talked about it, but there's only going to be 4 starters. Maybe if Nola's hurt, then we can. There's a chance Nola's not factoring into the playoffs. But if he is, there's only 4 guys who can start, and you've got right now 6 guys who you feel pretty good about starting, and you got Andrew Painter waiting in the wings. So I think 3 of those guys are going to be in the bullpen. So I want to go get one bullpen arm. But I think my point on the bullpen, I still feel this way, is just that they are not going to stop this team from doing what it wants to do, from winning 95 games-ish. It might, maybe a good bullpen, a slightly better bullpen would get them to 98. Maybe if they were slightly worse and, bottom 5, bottom 10, then that could be 90. But I think the bullpen's not going to stop them from winning the division or doing whatever they want to do. So my whole thing is just, I think the bats might stop them from doing what they want to do in the playoffs. Well, so
I think bullpen is the same case to me. Like, if Mick Abel is pitching that inning last night instead of Taijuan Walker, do you feel
I would feel great. Yeah, I think Mick's stuff plays up perfect out of the bullpen. Throwing 98, big looping curveball. You've got the changeup, like 4 or 5 pitches for Mick. Like Taijuan Walker is a joke of an option as a bullpen guy. And I understand that he did well as a starter. It's a totally different set of circumstances to be a starter than a reliever. Now, the reason that I feel pretty good about it from the Phillies perspective is because we have Ranger, who is a conversation I think we actually have to have.
Yeah.
Ranger has the bullpen experience, so you feel good about him potentially being used in that way, although that might be I think that might be over.
He's filthy, man. Ranger's just filthy.
We're going to talk about it. It's unbelievable. It's a really incredible development. And then you have Luzardo, who I think also could play up out of the pen. Like his stuff is electric. Even if you wanted to say Sanchez, I think his stuff is electric. The interesting thing is I can't see a scenario where come October we feel better about Nola than any of Sanchez, Luzardo, or Ranger. I don't think Nola's stuff works out of the pen necessarily. Like I think he's a starter, and what he gives you is he can always give you 6 innings and all that stuff with Nola. So the interesting thing with him is even if he comes back late and it's like, oh, we'll throw him in the bullpen. Like I don't know if that works with Nola, but I do think out of the options, and then Painter, if Painter is what we think Painter is, I think it should make sense out of it. My stance on Painter was he should have been the closer in April. But the Mick point, I've been bullish on this since the first start. Put him in the pen now, or at least once you get Nola back or Painter.
Yeah, I'm certainly not against trying that. I could. It's worth giving a look or giving it a try there. I don't think I'm as locked in on for sure McAble's the solution to that. I totally see eye to you about Painter. I don't understand the hesitancy or the resistance. And to me, the best pathway for this guy is to get him some real playoff innings. Like, I understand it's a different, like routine and approach or however you want to put it there. But at the end of the day, baseball is baseball, man. And if he wants to be a high leverage pitcher for this Phillies team, which everyone expects, and that is the game plan at this point in the time, that's the way to season him a little bit in my mind. So I don't like the resistance that they're clearly showing there. And it also should be noted, like, Painter has gotten hit up a little bit in the minor leagues these past couple outings there. So it's not something
he has. I think either his last outing or his last 2 outings have been better now. I think he's evened out a little.
And I'm not saying I'm panicking about it whatsoever, but I don't think he might be this cure-all the way I think he's sometimes talked about.
Pitchers in general, it's like wings in the NBA. Like pitchers are generally not great right away. Like it is a developmental process, like to get to where those guys are. Paul Skeens is a unicorn. Like I think too many people see that and see moments where there are young starters who come up and pitch right away. I even think some of the Japanese pitchers have kind of skewed that because they come in at like age 30 generally. But I think it's really hard to expect rookie pitchers to come on to a winning team and make an impact. Now, I'm kind of expecting it a little bit from Painter just because of how touted he's been for such a long time. From what I read about Painter, the problem recently has been that the fastballs are really flat all year. It's been really flat and hittable. The off speed's still good. The velocity's there. It's just that he used to have a lot of movement on his fastball. Now it's just kind of cruising right in there. So I think that's something that's probably workable, and that's something that is probably something that can be fixed if the velocity's there, the off speed's there. So I do think, if Painter comes up and gets roughed up in his first outing or second out, like both 2 of his first 3 outings, whatever it is, and has a 5.2 ERA, I'm not going to be shocked. Like that It's kind of what probably should have happened with McAbel. And it's kind of why I am bullish on Abel. Abel doing what he's done at this age is I think it's all I connected a little bit to Jared McCain, where it's like guards in the NBA don't come in and do what Jared McCain did in year one. It's almost like starting pitchers like don't come in and throw 7-inning shutout 2 starts in a row or whatever it was over his first 2 starts. And by the way, this transitions nicely. My best bet of the day is the Philadelphia Phillies today on the money line, 3 units. I believe in Nick to have a good start in the biggest spot of his life so far here against the Mets and the Phillies. You look at the BVP numbers; they have hit Griffin Canning pretty well. The guys who have seen him, so hopefully the offense gets going for the Phils. I mean, I think that the 2 biggest storylines with the Phillies lineup is Brandon Marsh and Alec Bohm. And I've been on this for a while now, but Brandon Marsh, since May 3rd, since he came back from his quote-unquote IL stint, he's hit 337. He has a 409 OBP and 884 OPS. Over 115 at-bats, 39 games. Phillies are 25-14 in those games. Like Brandon Marsh at the end, at April 16th, was hitting 095 with a 387 OPS. Here we are in June 20th, even taking away, he's hitting 266 with a 736 OPS. He has a positive OPS, so it's positive batting average above the average line. And that's with one of the worst potential 2-week starts any player had across Major League Baseball. And the same is true for Alec Bohm. Alec Bohm, since April 14th, around the same time that Marsh was sent down, Alec Bohm's hitting 321 with an 823 OPS in 61 games and 252 at-bats. And he's another guy. When on April 12th, he was hitting 151 with a 336 OPS. Here we are, he's hitting 289 with a 740 OPS. That's pretty unbelievable of a 2-month turnaround for guys who we were kind of writing their Phillies eulogy. I think, especially Marsh. We were absolutely writing his Phillies eulogy. People were regretting trading Logan O'Hoppe, who I think is really cooled off now. But I think the biggest development of the last couple of weeks, or especially whenever the losing streak kind of ended, I think probably about 2 weeks ago, Brandon Marsh has made it so that that's one less spot you have to go fix at the trade deadline.
Yeah, I definitely huge storylines there and really impressive turnarounds. And it takes some mental fortitude to even kind of dig that, particularly a guy like Marsh, who, as you mentioned, we very clearly were talking about, okay, it's just not working out. They need to have a new direction. I threw a little interesting hypothetical, and I don't think this is one that probably comes to light here. But say the Phillies were to trade for a center fielder, a guy that's an everyday center fielder. Who becomes your left fielder? Is it Marsh or is it Kepler? Marsh?
Absolutely Marsh. Yeah, 100%. And I think that's actually, I think a lot of the season I've been like, you can't be picky, you can't be choosy about who you get. You just have to get a right-handed bat, hopefully some power. It doesn't matter what position he plays, you can move it around, shake it around, whatever. Where we are now with Bryce's injury, he's not ever moving to the outfield. Here we are with Schwarber. You don't feel good about him out in the field, and Kepler has heated up, but I don't take Kepler seriously as a piece on the team. Brandon Marsh goes from being a bad center fielder to an elite left fielder in terms of his fielding. He just can't cover the ground it takes in center anymore. He's clearly lost a step of speed here since he's been here since 2022. When he came here, he was like a good center fielder. I think he's gotten much worse in the field. But when he plays left field, he's been an elite left fielder. So I think it's almost imperative, if you are going to get an outfielder, go get a center fielder so you can officially move Marsh over.
Yeah, no, that makes sense to me. And by the way, shout out Nick Castellanos for requesting the defensive pamphlets to understand his metrics a little bit better there. That was an all-time kind of hat tip move as passive aggressive as you could get. But I love everything about the saga, the Castellanos, the Rob Thompson. You did not seem to be as much of a fan, Mark Henry Jr. So take me through it.
My whole thing was like, and you were a part of this. I was yelling at you guys in the chat.
Uh-huh.
It was more so just that things were going so great. Like
Sure.
we had won so many games in a row or whatever it was at that point. I don't remember. It was, I guess it was did we lose the game Castellanos didn't play?
No, I think they still won
We
that.
lost the game he complained?
The game he was benched for, I believe.
No, actually, I don't know.
I think
I'd have to dive in here and look at it. But either way, I think we lost the game he was benched for. But
Okay.
yeah, so at that point, I'm looking at the schedule here. At that point, we had won 5 straight. So you guys were like, oh, I love this. Topper showing balls. And I was just like, I would get that if we had lost a couple straight or we were playing 500 ball as of late, like whatever it was. The vibes were so good. We were winning so many games. Like we just had like Otto Kemp had a big night and there was feel good vibes with that. Orion Kirkering had just got like his first save and he had the post game interview and they were celebrating his first save. And it just felt like the vibes were so good that I felt like anything negative or anything to change whatever the vibes were. And I think that, vibes are generally in like basketball or football. It's something I would probably laugh at, but in baseball season, it's so long. It's 162 games. I really do think like that stuff matters and momentum matters and like the clubhouse matters. And you have to like be playing for not only the manager, not only yourself, but the other guys in the clubhouse. And I think all of that factors in baseball more than any other sport. I think what I was saying was not like, oh, we're going to lose a bunch of games in a row now, like the season's ruined. I was just saying anything to distract from what's going on right now doesn't feel like a good thing.
Yeah, and for housekeeping here, they won the game he was pulled out of. They lost the game that he was full bench for.
That's what I thought, yeah.
Yes, and of course he comes back and makes essentially the game-winning catch after, which is just
the game-winning
poetry.
Catch. The game-winning catch, every right fielder in baseball makes that catch.
Sure, but that's sort of part of the whole argument in case here is that like he has to make that play and he did, and that's the Nick Castellanos story. Like he's not a good defender, don't get it twisted, but I do think that this guy takes it like personally that he's certainly improved miles from when he first got to Philadelphia for what he is. Like this dude started his career as a DH for a reason, and he was a DH for the Tigers and for most of his career until coming to Philadelphia. So like I think Castellanos has some pride in wanting to be considered. I mean, he's never going to be mobile. We saw JT Realmuto almost lap him from second base yesterday on the base path because that's kind of pace we're working with. And I understand where the ball was hit and all those kind of things were a factor as well. Castellanos is not a good defender. He should not be taken out of the conversation for like is impossible to take out. Like Rojas is better defender than him. It's not rocket science to analyze that, especially late in games there. I think we still don't know what was directly said here, but if we know anything about Nick Castellanos, like I think it's on brand for him to make some sort of comment there. I also think Rob Thompson, for a guy that the number one critique of him that he like doesn't, stick up in the locker room or have like this, I guess like, enforcer type mentality here, that I thought he showed a little something there. So I thought it was fair game on all parties and kind of like that it all happened.
I guess my critique on Thompson has never been about the clubhouse, because I actually felt like that was always his strength. Like, I feel like the guys loved him. So my critique on Thompson is that he doesn't ever talk to the ump, which people can laugh at that if they want to.
Last night was definitely a case where he should have.
I think that there's a mental game you have to play as a manager where I think you do have to have a constant conversation with the ump. And, I think squeaky wheels get greased sometimes, as bad as that is to say. I do think it's especially like basketball. Like I forget who it was on Part of My Take talking about it, but there was a college coach talking about Hurley, and he was saying how he thinks Hurley complains so much that it helps them because you, as a ref, want to be so sure when you're blowing the whistle against him because no matter what, it's going to be an argument. So you have to feel confident in whatever you call. And he would say like he would start yelling at the refs coming down the floor, be like, "Stop listening to him! It's changing how you're calling the game." I think that's just human nature, and I think that's just part of a job as a manager is when your guys are getting screwed, usually balls and strikes, you need to chime up and you need to say something.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. And I thought last night was an example where they should have that. Like the strike zone was inconsistent all night. Like there was back to
Wheeler
back.
said something.
Yeah, Wheeler, which I loved. I loved the chirp, and I think he was chirping the third base ump for the check swing there, which was also insane because he very clearly went around on that check swing there. And I thought it was a strike straight up anyway in the first place on that pitch there. But nonetheless, Juan Soto managed. Or he ended up getting struck out twice on that same. And you're laughing at my Juan Soto's a loser take.
Yeah, I think we have to bring this up. He's a world champion.
He's a loser. He's a stone cold loser. Like the way that guy goes about his business, I don't think he's earned the right to this point. Juan Soto, I get he's making $765 million. I get that he is a World Series champion. He's one of the better players in baseball. But dude, the way that he just walks around and casually and all this stuff, it really rubs me the wrong way. I love that he's on the Mets. I love that this is a dude that I get to hate for probably the rest of his baseball career because I just don't think he's in the same like Aaron Judge is a miles better baseball player than Juan Soto. Yes. Where's Juan Soto? Like, you think he's the best player in baseball?
No, he's not. I think Judge is better, but I don't think he's like miles better. Is what I would say. I don't think anyone can be miles better. He's a career 945 OPS guy. He hasn't been. He's 842 this year, so he hasn't been quite himself. The last 2 years, he was 989 and 930. He's got the best eye I've ever seen a hitter have. He's just like the most disciplined hitter I've ever seen.
Bryson Stott would like a word.
Yeah, Bryson Stott. Oh my God, he's been a little better lately. I actually should go look at his last week or two stats. I'm curious. I felt better about his approach to play. But anyway, Juan Soto is not a loser. Juan Soto is like he's one of the best hitters in baseball. He's a bad fielder. He probably shouldn't be playing the field.
I think he encapsulates the New York Mets is that it is empty pockets, empty passion. He's just a dude that gets paid a ton of money to play baseball because he's very good at it. He doesn't care about playing baseball. He doesn't have a motor in him. He doesn't have this high level of effort. He's not a guy that I think it's going to keep him up at night one way or another, whether he had a good or a bad game. I think he's just like a soulless, good baseball player because he's incredibly
good. Is Manny Ramirez a loser?
Manny had way more passion. I liked Manny. He did the prima donna stuff.
I think they're very similar.
I can see it. I still think like I don't think Juan Soto has like any heart whatsoever is sort of what I'm getting at here. I felt some of it. Like Manny definitely did the prima donna type stuff and all the swagger and everything.
A lot more prima donna or like more concerning stuff, like throwing through like a secretary down a flight of stairs.
He
had like more like actually concerning stuff. I think Juan is just like Juan should not be playing the field. The only reason he's playing the field is because he's not like a total. If you look at like the advanced metrics, he's like an average fielder. But he's paid to go hit 30 home runs and walk 150 times, and have a 900 plus OPS, putting him in like the top 5.
And kick a bunch of dirt in the batter's box and puff your chest out.
I love this show. The Soto Shuffle's unbelievable.
I mean, I hate him.
If he wasn't a Met, I don't think we would feel this way.
Probably partially true, but I do think like I've fully shifted to like he's overrated. He's not. He's a good, not great baseball player.
No, he's elite. He's an elite baseball player. He's a Hall of Famer right now. Like he's elite. The only guys you can argue are better are Shohei and Judge.
Those are definitely better, but I don't know, man.
I agree, they're better.
Like peak Bryce Harper is better than current Juan Soto. You don't think that's true?
No.
Bryce Harper a couple years ago?
I love Bryce. Juan Soto's the best. Juan Soto's Ted Williams. He's the best eye I've ever seen a hitter have. Like, this is a guy who just breaks. I mean, he's led the league in walks 4 times. He's currently leading the league in walks, even in like a year where he's down clearly at 842 OPS. He's just.
Like, part of what made me mad last night, Wheeler, like, he wasn't pitching around him, but he walked him twice. And, like,
by the way, I think it's genius. And part of, like, Jacob Young is batting 6th in this Mets lineup. Like, the Mets have Jeff McNeil. Like, I know he homered last night, but, like, they have some guys in that lineup who I am not scared of.
I'm not scared of Juan Soto is what I'm saying right now.
Terrified of Juan Soto.
That made me mad last night. Like Zach Wheeler, and I don't think he did it intentionally. I think he didn't quite have his control.
The one he did intentionally. The second
one
where he went up
did.
3-0, that was I think it was there 2 outs, bases empty?
That sounds right about that.
I think he's right. Like that's there's no reason to not do that. But I think it's more of a statement on the rest of that Mets lineup outside of like Pete and Juan, and outside of that, Lindor's like over his last like 20 or something crazy now. Like Lindor's stats are like not that different than Trey's this year. Like if you line them up 1-to-1, like Lindor's not MVP. He was not MVP Lindor last year, even statistically. That's a whole other debate. But Lindor's not as good as he was last season. And outside of those guys, like that lineup leaves a lot to be desired. So it reminded me, I was watching that last night and I had a totally different thought. I loved it. It reminded me, I don't know if you ever heard Greg Maddux talk about Barry Bonds. Juan Soto's not Barry Bonds. Even after everything I just said, Barry Bonds is the best like athlete I've ever seen. But Juan Soto, it reminds me of that the way that Wheeler treated that, because Roy Halladay agreed with Greg Maddux on this. Greg Maddux, someone asked, how do you pitch to Barry Bonds? And he said, I've cracked the code on this. Like, I know exactly how to pitch to Barry Bonds. You point to first base. He's like, you tell him to walk to first base. I don't care what he can. I don't care. You just look percentage-wise. He just has a much higher percent chance to hurt you than the other guys in the lineup. It's not exactly the same with Soto because he's not like a 70 home run guy. He's more of a guy who's going to kill you on a walk or kill you on a double, and he's always he's just so likely to get on base every time he gets up. So I don't have a problem with walking him at all. I think it's more of a referendum on that Mets lineup.
I think that's all fair. I still like Wheeler had him 0-2 the first at bat, man. Finish the dude. Don't be afraid of this guy is sort of my message. And that's what I want to see for the rest of the series is I don't want to pitch around Juan Soto. I don't think this guy is as good as he's paid to be. I think he's an overrated soulless baseball player and a straight up loser that I can't wait to root against for the next 15
I'm fine with soulless. I'm fine. Loser is wrong because he's a World Series champion. If he's a loser, then I think like 95% of and he was also like the main, he's like the best player on a.
I know. I even looked back at the playoff stats in preparation for this, and he was great.
Unbelievable. Wasn't he really good for the Yankees in the playoffs last year too? I'm pretty sure. I don't know about the World Series, but I think at least like leading up to get them to the World Series, I think he was really good in the playoffs last. Like a lot better than Judge.
Judge was horrible in the playoffs, and
he's always horrible in the playoffs somehow. But the overrated and the not good enough for what he's paid is where I take issue. He's so good. I hate the Mets. Hey, if we want to have an overrated conversation, let's talk about Francisco Lindor. I'm all ears to have an overrated conversation on Lindor. That guy is one of the more overrated players in sports, in my opinion. Brandon Nimmo underrated though. I like Nimmo actually as a player, but anyway.
Bobby Witt Jr. is better than Juan Soto.
He's having a really down year. I would say coming into the year, I would have put Witt's a better probably overall player. Soto's a much better hitter than Witt. Yeah. But Witt's a great shortstop. So it does. There's a conversation. What's he? I'm pulling it up. I know he's been a little worse, especially lately. Yeah, still 832 OPS. Yeah, he's been better this year. He's been better because he's a great fielder. And he's younger, so you'd probably take him. The one thing I'll say is like, Soto's going to be this for 10 years. Like he's going to eventually be a DH. So his job is just going to be go up there and, use your eye. And it's not like he's like reliant on athleticism or power in any way. He's like a pure, like Manny A-Rod type hitter where it's just like he was born to go up and hit and to not swing at bad pitches. And part of what I'll say is Wheeler pitched around him in that second at bat. The first at bat, what I'll tell you is he went 0-2. I don't necessarily know if Wheeler was pitching, or he's not pitching around him once you go up 0-2. He was trying to get him to chase. Juan Soto doesn't chase baseballs. That's like his whole thing. So Maybe that might be a Wheeler. We saw that article come out last week that he does not research anything about anything. And he asked, I forget who it was. He asked if they were a righty or lefty, like an
Randy Rosarena.
Randy Rosarena. Yeah. And yeah, he's been around for a good bit of time. And maybe he just didn't know that Soto doesn't chase, which is funny. He's played Soto enough times, but yeah, I don't know. But I would probably say that at bat, the first at bat, I think was just Soto being Soto. The second at bat was Wheeler, I think, having an empty base with 2 outs, and he's like, I'm not letting Soto ruin my night.
Yeah, I think that's accurate there. I think Wheeler just missed his spots a little bit in that first one too. Like he didn't really have his pinpoint control last night, and like particularly the one that was ball 4, I think that was intended to be a strike up top that he just got put a little too much on. So I'm not hating on Zach Wheeler for it, but Mick Abel tonight, I want you to look Juan Soto right in the eyes and throw 3 strikes his direction. That's my challenge for Mick Abel.
Nibble around the edges, Mick. Nibble around the edges. That's what I'd say. But real quick, and we got to get to our quarterback rankings here. But real quick, Ranger Suarez, he has a 1.17 ERA, taking out his first start back from injury. He's been the second best starter in baseball since that start. Or it's either second. I think it's second in the NL behind Skeens, maybe third behind Skeens and Skubal since then overall. But and not necessarily news that Wheeler is retiring after 2027. He has said that I got the hiccups here. When he signed the contract, Wheeler did say that. So it's not breaking news. He did reaffirm it. Here we are, maybe a year and a half later, said the same thing. I think where we are right now, I think you have to sign Ranger Suarez. And I don't think they're going to. And I think it's a mistake. And I think a couple months ago, even I, the biggest Ranger fan, I have his jersey. It's my favorite player on the team, my favorite athlete in the city. It's not a stretch. Jalen Hurts probably has something to say about that. But he's right there. No joking. Ranger is right there with Jalen. I literally, when I realize he's pitching that night, when I look at like that days, I get joy knowing I'm going to get to watch Ranger. I love watching him pitch. Even I was saying, well, we have Painter coming up, maybe even Abel. You're going to have to – you have Luzardo for another year. Sanchez has been so good. I was understanding that you probably have to let him go. But my whole thing was like, you have to let him pitch this year. Like this is the year where this is part of this small window with this core where we can go win a title. You have to maximize his value even if you just let him walk at the end of the year. Here we are now, and next year, now that we know Wheeler's retiring after 2027, he's a top 3 pitcher in baseball. That he gives you – once we lose Wheeler, this is a different operation. It's going to be a much different operation. So I think you're paying Trey what you're paying him. You're paying Bryce what you're paying him. You're paying Zach what you're paying him. You're paying Aaron what you're paying him. All these guys are making top dollar. Maybe Kyle will be. Nick still is. That's all wasted if you're not treating 2026 like a serious year. And my stance officially, and I love Luzardo, we're officially at a stance where you have to pay Ranger over Luzardo because more than anything, you have Luzardo next year.
Right.
You can pay Ranger, you bring him back for next year, you have them both for next year, and then you let Luzardo walk. And I think any perceived value that there is in paying Luzardo long-term over Ranger is washed away by the extra year that you would get with both of them instead of letting Ranger walk. Am I explaining that well?
Yeah, I like it. I'm in. I'm a Ranger Suarez guy as well. I kind of have the feeling, and this is my sense on things, is that the Phillies are very much at a like, we're going to see what happens in this playoffs and then really go from there. And I don't think that directly applies to Ranger as much as like Schwarber, there's been no progress, and I don't expect there to be at this point in the game. I think if it was going to happen already, it would have, as far as an extension conversation, that he's at least going to kind of test the open waters, that there's decisions to be made about Nick Castellanos going into the final year last year. Like you mentioned, Luzardo is one more season and then arbitration and all those kind of situations need to work on themselves. Boom. Yeah. Another one who
Alvarado team option.
Yeah. So like, I think the sense of the Phillies is we've kind of had a couple swings at it with this core at this point. Let's see how this year goes and really evaluate what the next steps are. And I do think like them leaning more into the direction of pitching is absolutely correct and what they should continue to be doing. And I think Rangers should be a part of that vision. So I do hope that is the case. My level of optimism has increased, but I still kind of more so lean on things of some team's going to toss him 20 mil per year in a way the Phillies just aren't going to be willing to.
My level of optimism for him staying has not increased, but my demand for him staying has.
Okay.
That's where I'm at. I don't think they're going to pay him. And I think you can just, Dombrowski picked Luzardo. Dombrowski not pick Ranger. It's just, we see that across all sports. GMs have their guys that they went out and picked, and he went out and made the trade for Luzardo. Ranger's been here since long. He came here as a 15-year-old. He's been a Philly for 13 years now. Ranger Suarez bleeds red. I mean, that's just what it is. Ranger needs to be a Philly for life. That guy is born to be a Philly. He's born to pitch here, born to pitch under the bright lights at Citizens Bank Park. And I understand what you're saying. They have a lot of decisions to make after this year. What I think they'll probably do is they probably let Ranger walk. They probably pay Kyle, and they run it back one last year with Bohm, Nick, and Alvarado is the interesting one. But the other guys, I think it's mostly the same team because I just don't think they are paying so many people so much money. They can't just be like, oh, well, next year's a gap year and Aiden Miller and Andrew Painter will fill in the gap. Like, I don't think they can have that attitude next year. Like, I think they're going to have to go pony up. So it'll be interesting. But
I'm a little nervous about Schwarber. I won't lie.
I'm not. I think this is just agent stuff. They like going to the open market. Maybe it drives up the price, but I've said it many times. Dombrowski said Kyle Schwarber is the best clubhouse person he's ever been around. And with what Kyle's doing on the field, I just can't imagine. It's also like he's not a guy that projects to like get much worse. He's not relying on athleticism. He's not playing in the field. He's just hitting. I think
stealing bases.
Yeah. I think that Dave again, this is a guy Dombrowski picked. Dombrowski brought this guy here, and there's no way he hasn't been 2 times better than what Dombrowski thought he was going to be. Bringing him here, and he loved him and wanted him and had him in Boston and brought him to Boston. Like, this is just – he is so through and through a Dombrowski guy. This would be akin to me to, like, Daryl saying, James Harden's not my guy anymore, which happened, and I get it.
He did. Yeah, he did say that.
But James Harden wasn't coming off, like, the best year of his career. Like, Kyle Schwarber is having the best year of his career by far right now, and is each year having the best year of his career. Like, on this contract, I have maybe I'm wrong, and I'll be the first person to be on here yelling and screaming about letting Kyle Schwarber walk. I have no doubts and no concerns, and I'm a pessimist. I'm usually the guy who, I think Ranger's going to walk. I think no matter what, I think they've made that decision, unfortunately. But I really genuinely just don't see Dombrowski turning his back on his guy.
Yeah, and if Kyle Schwarber starts scheduling Adidas camps in China, we should be panicking. I'll say that.
Dave Dombrowski is a liar. Now, on to our quarterback rank. We're going to zoom through this real fast here. Let's go from the top. The top because I think we probably are pretty similar.
Yeah.
Are we the same top 4?
We are.
In the same order?
Correct. Pat Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, and Jalen Hurts is my top 5, which is the same as yours.
Yeah, I think to me, it's inarguable, and the order is actually inarguable too. I think the only one I will say is I think we could make a case for Jalen over Burrow, but I'm not here to make it right now. But I do think there is a cohesive case to be made.
I was close to doing that today. I gave some real thought to that. So agree. I think that's open. But that should be the tier of 5. That is the elite quarterbacks in the NFL. That's what should be acknowledged. It's those 5 guys.
And even if we want to say it's a tier of 3 and then Joe and Jalen, or even if you wanted to say it's a tier of 4, my biggest point of this exercise, nobody outside of that top 4 is comparable to Jalen and what Jalen's accomplished here. And no, I will listen to nobody tell me anybody outside of that top 5 is better than Jalen Hurts. On to 6. Are we in agreement? I've got Jaden Daniels at 6. Where did Jaden end up for you?
Jaden fell at 7 for me.
Okay.
I threw Jordan Love at 6.
Okay, I'm totally fine with that. I have him flipped. I have Love 7. You know how big of a Love guy I am. The Jaden Daniels thing for me, and the reason that I've been predicting that they're going to have a Texans-ish, Stroud-ish kind of regression year, the reason that I've kind of changed my mind on that a little bit recently, I do think Jaden's rushing just gives a team such a high floor. And I will say, I wish I would have just went in on it last year. I said this about Washington last year, that like they were not going to be a bad team. Like Jaden Daniels was going to be as good as he's basically going to be. Like I don't think there's a lot of, maybe this is dumb to say, like I don't think Jaden's going to be much better ever than he was last year. Like I think that might be the peak. And for a guy like him, like your peak years are early on because it's your peak athletic years. And I think that's what's really going to matter with Jaden is how athletic he is in 5 years. You know, we've seen guys like Cam come into the league, and that's basically the best you see them. And I think Jaden might be the same way. Now, year 2 is basically the same as year 1. Like I don't think he took enough damage last year that's going to, you know, change how he is this year. But Jaden's just a guy with the rushing gives him a high floor, and I gave him a nod over Love just because of the rushing.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think we've put the cart before the horse a little bit with Jaden Daniels. I believe in him. I think he's very good. I don't think he's quite knocking to get in the elite quarterback conversation just yet. He was as impressive a rookie year as you could possibly have, but I feel a little bit more confident making the bet on Jordan Love right now.
I'm going to skip the next guy. We're going to get to him wherever he naturally comes up on your list. But first up, did you rank Caleb or May? Did you take out the same guys I did, or did you?
Yeah, I left out the guys you did.
Okay, yeah. So we didn't rank 6 starters. So it's Caleb. We felt like I did this exercise with Shane Half earlier this week. We left out Caleb because we felt like we were going to have to rank him like 23rd or like pretty low just based on what we've seen already. And this is a 1-year exercise. And this situation last year was just so messed up to even evaluate him. Drake May barely played, so we didn't put him in. Michael Penix barely played, so we didn't put him in. J.J. McCarthy didn't play, so we didn't put him in. Cam Ward, obviously first-year starter this year. And then we didn't rank the Saints starter. I think it's going to be Tyler Shuck, who would be last. But
yes.
we did not rank those guys. But number 9, we're skipping 8 for now. This was the guy that I kind of was most interested to see where I landed and where others landed. And I think Shane had him 1 spot lower than I did. I think what Baker Mayfield did last year was unbelievable. I think you can make a case for him for 6 on this list. I really do. But he's down at 9 for me.
I had Baker at 9 as well. The guy that I had at number 8 is one that I know you'll disagree with here, and that is CJ Stroud. Obviously a huge step back last year. I just totally can't completely wipe away what we saw as a rookie, and I do think that he rebounds this year. If we're making a bet on like guys that I believe in to reach their potential, that CJ Stroud's pretty high on my list there. I think he snaps out of it, has kind of a bounce back season, and reminds people who he is.
Yeah, it's not crazy at this point. Like these guys, I would make a pretty strong argument for obviously Herbert, but we'll talk about that later. I would make a pretty strong argument for Baker over Stroud. I think it's because I think Baker's year last year was probably better than Stroud's rookie year. I'd have to look at, I mean, different situations. Obviously, Baker's team is better, but I mean, what Baker did last year, he was one of the 5 best quarterbacks, probably.
He was great. Yeah, he was great, no doubt. I'm surprised that Baker has turned out to be exactly this, but shout out to him. Yeah.
We talked about it on the show with Shane. Maybe the weirdest quarterback career of all time. Genuinely. Yeah. Number 1 pick, Heisman in college, got drafted over Lamar and Josh Allen in the same first round, but still like not regarded as a bust. Like, even despite that. And I think part of it's because neither of them went that high. If Josh Allen goes like 3rd, do we feel a little bit differently instead of him going a little later and being a project, and then Lamar goes 32? But and then brings the Browns, one of the worst franchises in sports, to a playoff win. And then immediately goes downhill, loses that job, goes to Carolina, gets cut in like week 8, has to go to LA and save his career on a Monday night when I think he got to the team like 2 days before, didn't know guys' names in the huddle as he was leading a game-winning drive, and saves his career, gets a chance in Tampa to follow Tom Brady, who had just won a Super Bowl 2 years prior, and he's been like putting up better numbers than Brady was putting up in the same offense. Obviously, NFL, goes more pass heavy every single year, but it's unbelievable what Baker's done. And I think it's one of the weirdest careers we've ever seen an athlete have.
Yeah, no, for sure there. But I did put Baker at 9. That probably is a bit disrespectful based on what he's done.
No, I have 9 too. So it's not
okay.
one guy different. One one guy different. So it's not. I was just making strictly Baker versus Stroud because I do think Baker last year was even stronger than Stroud's first year. I have Stafford 10, and this is the hardest guy to rank, I think, because you want to include some stat-based things. Like Matt Stafford's stats are just like not comparable to these guys, especially the next guy I'm going to name. Like they're just not comparable to these guys and what he's done recently. But then, you watch him go against the Eagles in the playoffs in the driving snow in Philly and give us a better game and give our defense more fits and trouble than any quarterback did the whole season potentially. And, we're a Jalen Carter being blocked away from that season ending on Matt Stafford throwing a touchdown probably. So it's hard to rank Stafford. I put him 10 because I think like he's so clearly like a top 10 quarterback, but it's hard to argue him over some of these guys that I have behind him statistically.
Yeah, I went Stafford at 10 as well for a lot of the same reasons there. Dude, sort of on the opposite end of this, I would say. Geno Smith, I locked in for 11 here. The stats blow you off the page in a way. I don't think he's quite that guy in the way that the numbers indicate here, but I still think 11 I was completely comfortable putting.
I love Geno. That makes me so happy. I have Geno 16, but I thought like when I put that out, like people are going to be like, I have Geno too high. Like people are going to say I should have Geno below Bo Nix and Tua and Kyler and maybe even Sam Darnold. Like I think, his team got rid of him for Sam Darnold. But I think a lot of people are going to be shocked that you have Geno that high. I don't mind it at all. I love Geno. I have Goff 11, Purdy 12. Where did those guys check in for you?
12 I had Jared Goff and 13 Brock Purdy, so not far off.
We've talked a lot about Purdy. We both, I think, were really impressed by him this year, which is weird to say in a year that was such a failure for San Fran. But I thought he really showed a lot when he didn't have all those guys. He didn't have McCaffrey, didn't have IU, didn't have he had Debo with fat, 40 extra pounds on him last year, moving around like an O lineman. So I was really impressed about what he was able to create with maybe not elite talent around him.
Yeah, I feel far better about Brock Purdy now than I did this time last year, which is pretty crazy to say about that season. But yeah, I think that's exactly the case. He proved a lot to me last year, so feel comfortable dropping him at 13. 14 is one you do not see eye to eye on me on. Bryce Young, I have at 14.
It's just, that's too high. That's way too high. And I loved Bryce Young. I had him over Stroud and the thing. He had a nice 8-game run. It's a little bit like Scoot, though. If you go look at the stats, it's like it's not. He was averaging like 180 yards per game in that 8-game run. Like it's not like he was lighting the world on fire like at all. So I think what happened. I talked about this on the show with Shane because actually Shane had him like 20 instead of 22 like I have him, and we were arguing about it because I think he just set the bar so low with how bad he was that when we saw development, we were like, oh my God, he's really good. But I think we went too far on Bryce.
He made some throws, man, though. He made some legit throws in that second.
You have it over Dak?
I do.
Oh, that's crazy.
Dak is next up for what it's worth, though. Dak is Bryce Young 14, Dak Prescott 15 for me.
And you have him over Herbert, and I'm not even going to I get it. You're doing your Herbert bit. But where's your Trevor?
Trevor was 16, so head right down the list here.
I thought you'd be on Trevor.
He's another guy that the crazies are out on both sides for, that people will convince you that Trevor Lawrence is the best quarterback in the world, but everything's wrong with the Jaguars. And there's also like, I think we got to be a little bit neutral. And like, there was some really concerning stuff last year. He absolutely regressed and like looked like the rookie year Trevor Lawrence, which I was hopeful was gone forever there, but he wasn't in the best situation either. So I'm still kind of jury's out for discussion for me for what is the real Trevor Lawrence, but I'm certainly lower on him than I would like to be at this point in his career.
I only have him one spot higher than you. And my thing with Trevor is kind of like the same thing you talk about with Stroud. Like his mid-2022 to mid-2023 is a full season basically of games, 17 games. If you go look at that, like 17-game sample size spanning over those 2 years, it's hard to quit on that. And that involves a playoff win and all that stuff. But we're running out of time, but I will just run down the rest of the list. I have Bo at 17, Tua at 18, Kyler at 19, Sam at 20, Fields at 21. You could tell me Bryce is better than Fields. There's some rushing that I'm kind of attaching to that. Aaron Rodgers at 23, Russell Wilson 24, Daniel Jones 25, Joe Flacco at 26.
Yeah, pretty similar here that I went Bo Nix at 17, Tua at 18, Kyler at 19, Justin Fields I put at 20. I continue to be a believer, and this is a big year for the Justin Fields stock. Another guy in that one of the weirdest careers ever conversation from a quarterback. Aaron Rodgers at 21, Russell Wilson at 22, Justin Herbert at 23.
Behind Russell Wilson is insane.
Sam Darnold 24, Joe Flacco 25, Daniel Jones 26.
Sam Darnold. Jeez, what did he do to you?
Watched him in the playoff game is what he's done to me.
I have Darnold 20. He was really good for like 15. They won like 15 games.
I think he's got Justin Herbert disease, man. You put him on the heat lap, put the bright lights of the playoffs on into a little different ball game out there. I think Sam Darnold fits that category.
I think everyone would fit that category. Like, you don't think that
Jalen Hurts don't fit that category?
Yeah, I'm not saying the top 5 guys, but like Tua does, Kyler does, Sam does, Justin Fields probably would, Bryce Young probably would, Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson absolutely would at this point. We've never really seen Geno. I think he played one playoff game. I think they got blown out, but yeah, like all these guys. Bo was fine, I think, in the playoffs.
Yeah, he wasn't afraid. He wasn't afraid.
He was fine though. I don't think
he threw that long touchdown for the first score of that game. Like Bo's got some stones.
But then I think the rest of the game, I think they didn't really move the ball. Who they play? Denver in the
was it Kansas City?
Buffalo?
I think so. I want to say Kansas City.
One of those teams. Yeah, they play. Obviously, they play a really good team. But yeah, the Herbert thing is where you just lose me. It's insane.
He's the worst. He's the worst playoff performer of any player in any sport. Mark Henry Jr. He just is. Statistically, like he's
games.
Correct. And what happened in those 2 games there? He blew a 27-0 lead at halftime, in which for all this, the defense blame. If you score one score, you win that game.
I'm not really necessarily defending what he did in the playoffs, but it's just the guy won 11 games last year with a terrible team. The guy has put up years with 5,000 yards, with 4,800 yards, 38 touchdowns, 31 touchdowns. He's played 79 games. We have to evaluate him beyond just the 2 playoff games.
And what does he have to show for those 79 games is kind of how I feel. I think
he's had a winning season 3 times. Like
we treating these guys like he's CJ Stroud or Jaden Daniels here. He's been around for a minute now. He is exactly who he is.
He's 26.
Yeah. That's a full that's your athletic
he's
prime,
like
buddy.
2 years older than Jaden Daniels.
True. Yeah, Daniels did the weird thing. The stuck around in college and transferred.
Every player now.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's half the league. But Bo Nix might be older. Bo Nix might be older than Justin Herbert, for all we know.
I guess I continue to look at these as which quarterback gives me the best chance to win, and there are 22 guys I feel comfortably give me a better chance to win football games than Justin Herbert.
Like Kyler Murray he hasn't made the playoffs in 3 years. Like Tua hasn't won an important game. Yeah, the funniest one though is Tua. Like Tua, you can't do like the he's a loser, he loses big games with Justin Herbert, and then it's like Tua.
They're similar. They're similar.
Tua is either worse in those games or just doesn't play. Like he's just too hurt to play. But we'll debate Herbert later on. We got plenty of time to debate Herbert.
History will be on my side.
You're a Geno guy. I think it's something. Jeremy Horwath, legendary old tough cover producer. I haven't talked to Jeremy in a long time. But shout out to Jeremy. He loved Geno. I'll never forget. Yeah. I think that was Geno's first year as a starter. That he was the producer on the show, and he fell in love with I forget the line now. They wrote me off.
Wrote me off right back. Yeah.
He fell in love with Geno, and then by the time you were on the show, Geno was kind of accepted, I think, as kind of like a starter. But we've watched Geno go the whole round. I'm happy it's almost like you put those producer headsets on back at the Tough Cover Radio show. You got to be a Geno guy.
That's right. Can't complain about that. So yeah, Geno's growing on me. Shout out to him.
Big Raiders guys this year on this show. But that's going to do it for the Tough Cover Radio show. We're going to talk some fantasy football next week. We'll see if we can get Roy Burton on. Actually, I'm going on vacation next week. We got plenty of time to talk fantasy football. We'll talk NBA draft next week. Let's end this dang show. Tough Cover Country. Let's ride.
Yo, Jansen.